Good evening and Hare Krishna. Welcome to our conversation with Govinda Das. For those who don't know him, Prabhuji is an author, he's a thought leader, and a speaker who has very refreshing perspectives on our present day needs and challenges, which he derives from our age old scriptures. Today, we're going to be discussing something very interesting and exciting as marriages are in the air, the science of Swayamvar. How, in the traditional past, girls would select their alliances. What was the thought process? How did they go about it? How does it apply to us? Can it work today? These are questions which Prabhuji will answer in our conversation today. Thank you very much for joining. With these words, over to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितमेन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषण्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. So thank you Deepak ji for inviting to speak on Swayamvar, specifically connected to Draupadi. In the scriptures, in our Mahabharata, Ramayana and Bhagavad, anything for that matter, whether from taking sannyas or the concept of getting married, it is not black and white. There are different layers of psychology even while accepting the renounced order of life. Similarly, getting married, the Shastras talk about 8 kinds of marriages, right? And these 8 kinds of marriages, which all the scriptures talk about, they do not categorize like a boxes. They categorize based upon different psychology, right? For that matter, Swayamvar. Now, what is Swayamvar? Swayamvar is an act of a girl who is extremely matured, and because she is matured and independent thinker, but because there is a maturity flavored with independent thinking, so she also has the sensitivity towards cultural context. Her freedom of choice is not disruptive. Her freedom of choice is integrated based upon the past, present and the future, right? So therefore the Swayamvara, the word Swayamvara means I will choose my own man or a husband, right? Just imagine when we read certain sections of the scripture and dare not speak about other sections of the scripture, because we find contradiction. The very Manu, whom many people slander without reading complete work of Manu, right? They will only speak what he spoke about in certain context where the girls are always protected by father in her childhood, husband in her married time, and the son in her old age, right? So the way it is presented by the modern so-called left liberal, you know, in the and the traditional people also, the traditional people want to make a point and the left liberal want to make another point. Right. What is that? A woman is not given any independence. She is a slave of a man. Sometime even the traditional people use this, and the very word are used by the the liberal people to say, just see how a girl is enslaved. But that very Manu, how much can you dare like he has dared? Even the most liberal woman or a man cannot speak what Manu has spoken. Right? I also fear to speak this, but we have to present what is there. Manu says, when girl reaches certain age of her life, when her hormonal need, biological need, it is translated as marriage in those times. So he says, if nobody is helping her to get, she should run away and get a man in her life. See the contrast. See the contrast between, you know, taking shelter of her family and at the same time finding her own spouse and run away and get a spouse. Now, can anybody be more liberal than Manu? Boldly speaking, in the same pages of Manu Samhita. So, these are not contradictory to each other. The protection and freedom, they are not against each other. The freedom what Manu speaks and the shelter what Manu speaks, the shelter means empowerment. And when you are empowered, then you are creatively free without being less responsible. And therefore, of the 8 marriages, there are 8 kinds of marriages. And the topmost on the chart is called as Gandharva Vivaha. So, Gandharva Vivaha is nothing but love marriage. The concept of Kanyadan does not happen there. Both boy and girl being blessed by the 10 directions, blessed by the higher power, and approved in their very core, the core heart, they come together and they get married. And when they do such marriage, they have a conviction along with certain reservation that our superiors will accept this marriage. Right? So therefore, one of the most foundational principle of Vedic thought or Indic thought or Indian thought is freedom is the very nature. Nobody gives me the freedom. But when we work in a society, when we work in the family, then you have to earn your freedom. And when you earn your freedom, then you have a courage to make a right decision. Their love does not make a mistake. How many can claim they know the art of loving? And how many can claim they know the art of arranged marriage also? In the modern society, there is a conflict between arranged marriage and love marriage. There was no conflict. There were different layers of realities according to who you are. Just like if I want to study medicine, it is not based upon sentiment of wanting to study medicine. I need to have the capacity, disposition to study medicine. It is not based upon the feeling, it is based upon the fact. Now, arranged marriage or love marriage is all based upon feeling and agendas. Therefore, it is simply like a gambling match. There is a greater chances that you may lose the stake. Like a new person entering into a stock market without understanding anything, just because there is an app, and he tries to play around with his wealth and lose most of it. Right? Therefore, the Svayamvar we discussed in our Kanyadan thing, many of the aspect, but this is the foundational principle. Freedom is your not birthright. Freedom is your nature, right? And those who have the courage and the responsibility are given the freedom, and they prove that they will use the freedom in such a way they never make a mistake. So, for example, since we are discussing the Swayamvar of Draupadi also, in these three stories, right? Draupadi, Mother Sita, and I think Mandodari, right? So, you learn many nuances of marriage through the stories. Now, who is Draupadi? What was her background? Now, Draupadi was born through the yajna made by her father Drupada Maharaj. Therefore, it is explained your background is based upon the idea of conception and the consciousness and the psychology of the parents. You bring certain energies when you are basically conceived. What was their psychology? It's a huge deep science. I will not get into that. We will discuss maybe some other time about the birth of the Pandavas and its connection to the called as, the Garbha Samskar. It's a phenomenal science, right? So, what was the background of Drupad Maharaj? He lost to Dronacharya through the Pandavas, right? I'll not get into the detail of the story. He had lost the war with Dronacharya, who was his friend. Dronacharya had his own reason, and when he lost the battle against the Pandavas, which was orchestrated by Dronacharya, Drupad had two contradictory feelings. He had a great admiration towards Arjuna and hatred towards his friend Dronacharya. Just imagine, he had a great admiration for Arjuna and great anger, hatred, attitude of revenge toward Dronacharya. And there he made a resolve that I want a daughter who can become wife of Arjuna. With the same breath, he also mentioned, I want a son who could kill Dronacharya. Right? Certainly, Drishtadyumna was born and Draupadi was also born. But because this admiration and hate being there, Draupadi in her life basically attracting a contradictory emotions from people. I'll give one or two examples. The first example is when the Kauravas got to know that Pandavas are safe, they were not burnt in the Laksha Graha. So, and Draupadi was got married to them, and the Pandavas are coming back to claim their control, their place in Hastinapur. Up until now, Duryodhana was ruling. Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra were ruling because they knew that Pandavas are dead. But when they got to know Pandavas are not dead, they were there to see Pandavas getting married to Draupadi, right? So they had a discussion. In that discussion, some members of the Kurus said, let us tempt Draupadi by giving limitless wealth to her. Let us break the Pandavas. So Karna, right? He heard them and made a very contradictory statement. He said, you fools, how can you tempt Draupadi? Because this lady has married the Pandavas when she did not knew that they were Pandavas. She got attracted by their power, their valor of breaking the bow or piercing the target, and therefore with great you know, enthusiasm she has placed that garland. So there is no question of tempting her for wealth. She married them when they had no wealth. Now she knows they are the Pandavas. What is it? It's an admiration of her loyalty, her character. And with the same breath, the one of the most pervert character in the Mahabharata, he is like Devadatt Patnaik in one sense. Certain good things and then suddenly spin around, making. Hello, you're able to hear?
Yes,
Yeah,
Rohit.
yeah. While making sweet rice, while making sweet rice, he adds dirt in that. And that very Karna spoke something obnoxious. This is him speaking. What did he say? He said, after all, Draupadi has married 5 men, and women love to have relationship with more than one man. And unfortunately, many idiotic Indians who love Mahabharat, but they say we are Karna's fan. You are not Karna's fan, you are Karna's, you are idiots, dumb headed, right? How can you appreciate somebody who is talking about the entire women race? Women like, this is not my word, you can open and see in the Mahabharata, right? So therefore, now go back to the admiration is there for her loyalty, but within that loyalty finds a trait which is non-existent. Maybe few person exhibited those qualities, but he is targeting the entire women race, right? The second is with our Gandhari. Now Gandhari is welcoming Draupadi in Hastinapur. She can't see Draupadi because she's blinded. She consciously put a blindfold. But she can feel Draupadi, right? She must have hugged her. She must have felt her. Draupadi is very fragrant. She is from a different perspective, becomes greater than the many apsaras also, right? So when Gandhari welcomed Draupadi, one of the first statement along with welcoming Draupadi, being fascinated by Draupadi, Gandhari says, here comes in my family, in the Kurukula, who will become an instrument to the destruction and death of my children. ये मेरे बच्चों के, मेरे the boys, my boys, she will be the cause of their death. Just see the conception consciousness become part of your upbringing. Draupadi is not doing it, but people are seeing her like that, right? And therefore Narad Muni, when he came, this is after the marriage, when Narad Muni came to the Pandavas, knowing very well that the Pandavas had married one woman. Narad Muni, one who knew all the scripture, he could have slandered them, he could have blasted them, he should have abused them, he should have cursed them for what they did, which was unheard from a normal perspective. A woman marrying 5 husbands. Even the most liberal woman in this world, a greatest of the oak woman in this world, right? The most liberal woman in this world cannot conceive what to speak of speaking about this, and what to speak of ever doing, getting married 5 people. They will not be able to speak also. But Draupadi's liberal attitude of marrying 5 men, or 5 men marrying one woman, did not make them pervert, did not make them disruptive, did not make them narcissist, did not make them shameless, but made them such a responsible people, right? So Narad Muni comes and he speaks to the Pandavas by narrating the story. He said, this very Draupadi, he doesn't tell that she is like Tilottama. Tilottama was a heavenly damsel and she was very attractive, and two brothers, Sunda and Upasunda, got attracted to her, and they were so much close to each other, like one soul and two bodies, and that the benediction also, that nobody could kill them unless they want to kill each other, right? And when Tilottama was sent, they became so attracted to her, and Tilottama put that proposal, if you want to marry me, you have to fight with each other and prove who is greater. They forgot their benediction, they forgot their friendship, and they fought with each other and they got killed. So Narad Muni directly, indirectly gave this hint to the Pandavas. Draupadi has the power to unite you so deeply. But if you do not have the discipline in regards to relationship, you will experience the consequences of Sunda and Upasunda. Right? And that discipline the Pandavas followed. They made a vow for themselves. And this Draupadi became so powerful. She had the greatest strength, a greatest patience, determination, enthusiasm, power to unite the five different kinds of people. Dharmaraj Yudhishthir, aggressive Bhima, contemplative Arjun, and peaceful Nakul and Sahadev. Right? Yudhishthir represents Dharma. Nakul Sahadev represents Moksha. Arjuna represents Artha. And Bhima represents Kama. Generally, we have a trouble, or how can I practice my spirituality and also work on my gratifying my senses and also gratifying my artha. If you look for wealth, your dharma and your moksha will be disturbed. If you look for moksha, your artha and your kama will be disturbed. Right? And therefore people say India is a land of pessimistic philosophy because you are too attracted to spirituality. You don't have a goal of integration, therefore you are poor. But just see the very story of the Pandavas representing this different personalities, psychology of the Pandavas, and who unites them? Draupadi brings them together. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha are integrated in such a way, and Draupadi Devi becomes responsible for that integration. Just now somebody sent me a quote, a very big, very great warrior, soldier. He sent a very Maharashtrian person, he said, Ek Satya hai, there is one truth. What is the truth? 5 fingers are different. 5 ungliyaं alag alag hai. But there is another Satya, दूसरा सत्यपण है. What is that? जब खाने की बात आती है, all the 5 fingers are together, dedicated to the politicians. इस प्रकार से लिखा गया, dedicated to the politician. So take it positively, the Pandavas are 5 fingers different, but when they make a feast in regards to protecting Draupadi, in regards to empowering Draupadi, they become together. Another amazing quality of Draupadi. Because life is a land of duality, right? We discussed in our Gita sessions. Draupadi, you cannot have a greater relationship than what Draupadi had. You can't imagine, right? She had amazing husbands, not one, five. She had a great father who fulfilled his desire and Draupadi's desire to get best of the husband, Arjuna. She had such a great mother-in-law. When the mother-in-law brought Draupadi to her home, that mother-in-law, she was willing to give all the keys to Draupadi. Now you take care. I stay away. The very dear mother of the Pandavas, she allowed Draupadi to take care of her sons. Uncontrolling mother-in-law. And of the greatest relationship, a deep friendship with Krishna, more than bhakta. Of course, she is a devotee. But here Krishna accepted her as his friend. कृष्ण की सखी है, डीप फ्रेंडशिप था उनके बीच में. So when you have so much of resources in your life, can you imagine how much protection you experience? But that very Draupadi experienced complete abandonment, not in a wilderness in the forest. Some other, your plane has come down, your helicopter has come down, and you're in the dense forest, your pilot has disappeared, maybe the tiger has taken away, and you are alone, like what Damayanti experienced in the forest. She was alone. When you are alone, experiencing abandonment is one thing, it's an accidental. But here Draupadi experienced abandonment in the presence of all the people, those who respected her, those who loved her, those who were caring for her, those who had relationship with her as a husband, those who were blessing her like gurus, right? Everyone was there. बट इन दैट वेरी प्लेस, अपने पति के बीच में, अपने बुजुर्गों के बीच में, इन द मिड्स ऑफ हर सुपीरियर, शी एक्सपीरियंस कंप्लीट अबैंडनमेंट. कैन यू इमेजिन? एंड फ्रॉम दैट कंप्लीट अबैंडनमेंट, द हार्ट ऑफ द महाभारत, द एसेंस ऑफ द महाभारत, the heightened emotions of the Mahabharata is placed in this section, in the conclusion of Sabha Parva. Draupadi's non-rejection of a relationship, but complete shelter of her Ishtadev Krishna. Just imagine, जिन्होंने उसको abandon कर दिया, they abandoned her, but she did not abandon her relationship with them. She did not reject her relationship with her family in the name of taking shelter of Krishna. Right? She was able to integrate a greatest abandonment, not breaking the relationship, but accepting the deep shelter of the Supreme Krishna. Right? So just imagine such Draupadi, when she chose to marry the Pandavas, the Svayamvar also, the way it was organized, right? How the Svayamvar was organized, why was it organized? We discussed Drupad Maharaj wanted Draupadi to marry Arjun, or he wanted to have a daughter after seeing Arjuna, and he wanted to have a son, Drishtadyumna, after getting defeated. Right, this integrated or this contradictory consciousness brought Draupadi and Drishtadyumna to this world. During the Laksha Graha, when the news spread everywhere that the 5 Pandavas along with their mother have been killed, they were burned to ashes. The news reached like a wildfire all over Bharatavarsha, including Drupad Maharaj. He was despondent. He was hurt, he was angry, he was upset. How could this happen? How can my rishis who did such a great tapasya, the twin brothers, amazing deep rishis, They had performed tapasya, they had blessed me. How is it possible? But this is the truth, they have died. But there was a Purohit, and this Purohit he counseled the Bharat, he counseled Drupada. They said it's not possible to happen like this because Pandavas cannot be dying in an accident death. It is not possible. Therefore, my dear king, what you have to do is, it is my suggestion to you that you declare Draupadi Swayamvar and you are looking for Arjuna to marry her, and you organize the Swayamvar in such a way that the Swayamvar should be focused on Draupadi declaring and wanting to marry only one person who can pierce the fish's eye by watching the fish in the reflection of the water which is kept on the floor and fish on the ceiling. Nobody could do that except Krishna, Arjun, and if Karna, if he is not disturbed, he could do it. Right? So news spread everywhere. You can imagine, it was spread everywhere. Therefore, everybody came from all over. Even Krishna Balram came. Balramji did not know that Pandavas are living. But Krishna knew that they were living, therefore he had not revealed this secret to Balramji also. Very interesting. Shalya, Jarasandha, so Virata, everybody had come there. Some came to take part, some came to see the Swayamvar, and some came hoping that we don't get but we'll try. हमको मिलेगा नहीं but try करेंगे. And everybody came knowing her greatness. And this news reached to the Pandavas through another Brahmana who was basically feeling these guys are the most capable. उसके मन में आ गया. So he was the one who told them there is a Swayamvar happening, you should go there. And Vyasdev also had come and told them, given them indication that this is going to happen to them, that they're going to marry. And Daumya Rishi had told them also, you know what, you have finished your education, you need a teacher and you need to get married. So when the news reached, the Pandavas were like a magnetic file attracted to the magnet. They came to the place of Virata. That was the first time they came to the place of Drupad. That was the first time, in one sense, they came to the public place officially, but still disguised as the Brahmanas. Right? When they came there, and then nobody was able to do that. When the turn came for Karna, now it is very subtle. I have written in the book Real Side about Draupadi Swayamvar, discussing many nuances of that. Again, here also so many people fumble about Karna's involvement in this marriage. People fumble in regards to Karna speaking ill about Draupadi during the gambling match. He exhibits some of the most obnoxious qualities, but still people try to find no, this was not the case, this was not the case. They want to deny the reality. Drishtadyumna had made it very clear who can marry Draupadi. Very clear, right? But still Karna came to pick up the bow, and Draupadi, there was no chance of she marrying anybody. It was a match fixed, but the match was fixed not to attract all others. The match was fixed to attract Arjuna, who happened to be death according to the news spread all over. That Purohit had suggested to them, and that way their desire to attract the Pandavas for this Swayamvar was very much successful. And everybody was failing. There was no question of anybody winning. So when Karna got up, he came close. Now there are different versions within the Mahabharata also. One version says that he did not pick up the bow after Draupadi said. The other version says as he tied the arrow to the bow, lifted it, Draupadi made a statement, I will not marry a Suta. Karna got distracted. He shot the arrow and the arrow missed by the mustard seed. No, it doesn't. It did not touch the target. He walked away, feeling so insulted. Where people, this is the narration. You talk about freedom of choice for women, and Draupadi is expressing it very clearly before the marriage, that Swayamvar began. During the Swayamvar, she is expressing before he shot, I don't want to marry this person. What was wrong in her expressing? Because the common sense says a girl has all the right to express herself. She can, Bhishma speaks this, if she gets a better choice, somebody she finds better than what she has already found based upon arranged marriage, she can say to her parents, I want to marry this person. And it is not wrong on the part of the parents to break the previous relationship, allow her to marry new. It will cause a pain to the man, of course. It would not happen regularly, but they are giving that option. Why? Because she chooses once in her life. She has all the choice to decide, because once he marries, she would stay in that marriage. So, what was wrong on Draupadi's part to speak this? But Karna held that as one of the greatest anger and developed a revengeful attitude. Now Karna got disturbed. Now imagine when nobody was able to do, Yudhishthir looked at Arjuna, Arjuna rose. Who is he? A typical Brahmana. At least disguised as a Brahmana, nobody could recognize. When he rose, Krishna's hair stood on the end of his body. That was the first time the Lord Supreme was seeing his dearest of friend and devotee, Arjun. Their eyes met with each other. Arjun took the blessings of Krishna. As he was walking, you think the Sabha was stunned? It was silent. Nobody spoke anything? No. Some people were stunned to see a Brahmana stand up, what was not possible for the Kshatriyas. To see a Kshatriya, a Brahmana stand up, what was not possible, that's a great insult to the entire community of Kshatriyas. How the hell? How can he holding a spoon of a yagya is going to raise this weapon when it is not possible for us? How dare he does it? So people were jeering at Arjun. They are causing such a discomfort to him. And forget about the Kshatriyas, even amongst the Brahmanas, large number of Brahmanas were ridiculing, how can you do it? But there were some Brahmanas, they say, wow, he can do it, what others could have not done. And the way he walked. Now Draupadi could have stopped, right? She had not seen Arjuna before. She had no picture of Arjuna before. She did not have a secret LinkedIn picture of Arjun sending to her on a LinkedIn or WhatsApp, chatting with each other. No. For Draupadi, this man is a Brahman. He is not Arjun. But her inner consciousness did not stop the way she stopped Karna from contesting. It was not Suta, it was not Brahmana, it was not Bhima, it was not anybody else. It was specifically Arjuna whom she wanted to marry. Right? But this Brahmana is rising who is not even a Kshatriya, what to speak of being a Pandava. And she could have spontaneously, he would have said, I don't want to marry this man. She didn't say. And there was a commotion, there was a disturbance. But this man walks. The greatness of Arjuna compared to Karna, Karna is like Indian cricket team winning the regular matches 3-0. But when it comes to crucial match, especially the present batch of people, very skillful but psychologically very weak, repeatedly again and again. Alright, the greatest of the performers fail. Apparently they're very skillful. Like Karna was no less to Arjuna. In regards to skill, Krishna speaks about that. Krishna has no hesitation to speak about the greatness of Karna's skill. But what is the greatest weakness of Karna? That he does not flourish in challenging situation. He is good at winning the gold medal, but he is not good at winning the war. Big difference. And Arjuna may not win the gold medal in the Olympics, because anything which is predictable does not inspire Arjuna. Arjuna performs in the most challenging situation, and that is how life is. Life is not described and decided in the examination hall when you are writing a paper. Life is decided beyond the hall, which is unpredictable, shocking examination happening at every moment. And that gives such a concentration to Arjun. When everybody is jeering at him, some appreciating him, he just walks seamlessly, picks up the bow, places the arrow and shoot the target to such an extent, instantly the fish falls off. And Draupadi is not looking at here and there. She comes and offers the garland. How could she do that when she didn't know it was Arjun? Right? So imagine the samskaras, what she has developed through her father's desire. There was a clarity in her understanding. It was the marriage conceived before her birth, and this marriage remained so strong, even though Draupadi, compared to other husbands, she got longer association of the Pandavas other than Arjun. Arjun went away from the Pandavas during the exile also. He went to heavenly planets for 5 years. And when they were ruling, after the Rajasuya sacrifice, Arjuna went for 12 years because he broke certain rule which Narad Muni had established. He didn't break, but he thought he broke, and he said, I have broken this, I have to go. He went for 12 years. 17 years Arjuna was not there with Draupadi. Draupadi did not creep. She did her duty, never neglected the Pandavas. And at the end of the day, after the war was over, Draupadi had lost all her sons. Draupadi lost her father. Draupadi lost her brothers. Right? And Draupadi had to give the kingdom to the grandson of Subhadra. She did not hesitate. And as the story concludes, when Draupadi and the Pandavas are walking towards their ultimate destination, which is called as Swargarohana, Draupadi is the first one, she falls. Means she is about to quit her body. And Bhima asked this question to Yudhishthir. He said, hey Yudhishthir, hey Bhratashri, why Draupadi is falling? Because death is a sign of humanness, and humanness comes by our limitations. So then Yudhishthir Maharaj, who is he? He is Yudhishthir, a husband of Draupadi, but Yudhishthir also, he is the god of judgment. And he judges very, very precisely. It is not necessarily what he is saying that she is wrong or right. He is just judging her. He said, you can imagine how, if you are a person of a high standard, you will be judged with a greater standards. If you are an ordinary person, you will be experiencing greater compassion. The ordinary people need to be given compassion, and the quality people need to be judged with much greater, finer qualities. Arey, this is missing. Right? If you want to buy something, a diamond, you don't play around with it. But if you want to buy some, puffed rice, you don't invest so much of energy. You are okay, chalega thoda sa hai, either, whatever it is. So he said Draupadi was equally married to us, but she had a special affection for Arjuna. Can you imagine? The Yudhishthir Maharaj told this, but that proves the point. Even though she had a special affection, that is humanness for Arjuna, because that's how she was married, but in her life, she never exhibited that openly. She was absolutely equal. She was absolutely fair, but at the same time, she did not compromise her heart, where she had given it to Arjuna more than the Pandavas, other Pandavas. Therefore, Draupadi represents a complete womanhood, able to handle limitless diversities and bringing them together. And therefore, the greatest heroine of the Mahabharata, you know, is Draupadi alone, for presenting, exhibiting that quality. And therefore, when we hear her story, her success story, her painful story, her abandonment, her taking shelter of Krishna, you know, and she, like one very nice Vaishnav explained, a very elderly Vaishnav, Draupadi is a representation of Bharat, limitless diversity, and those who have the consciousness of the Pandavas, not marrying Bharat Bhumi, but they are marrying, means they are married to see integration in limitless diversity. They are not like the Veer Das. He is not Veer Das, he is the Hijda, Das. Right? Just to get some point in the Western world, speaks obnoxious stuff. Draupadi represents, if you touch, if you look at her, the Lord, the Supreme, he said, I will bring down everybody who is responsible for causing pain to her. Therefore, the character of Draupadi is deep as the, not this ocean of this world, she is as deep as the ocean in the spiritual world. And only Pandavas can dive deep, not alone, together with the help of Krishna, and therefore she is meant to be worshipped, not questioned or ridiculed. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. This exhibits the respect our traditions had for womanhood. Uh, in case you have questions, please tap on the raise your hand icon and we'll invite you into this conversation. Saurabhji, can you please ask your question?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dharma Pranam. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I have two questions. There is some.
Ask one question. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe
So
others.
this one question is, first of all, there is a typical that point which I'm not very much confirmed, that they always say that Draupadi said Andhe ka putra, and the blind son of a blind father and all, and in Mahabharata it is that Bhima said Dhritarashtra putra, and like this thing. So was it actually there, or is it the serial makers like B.R. Chopra or whoever, they have put like this on recent all this thing just to put masala in this thing, that Draupadi is saying like this to a Kshatriya, that blind son of a blind father?
It doesn't matter whether it is there or not. You cannot respond such obnoxiously if somebody makes a statement, because Duryodhana also made statement against the Pandavas. Karna made this statement before Draupadi met the Pandavas. If not in public place, but amongst the Kauravas, that women like to be being with more than one man,
Uh-huh.
right? And the Kauravas made the Pandavas not legitimate sons of the Pandu only. In public place they made. And
Uh-huh.
in just making that statement, what is the harm? Yes, Yudhishthir stopped them.
Mhm.
It was made by Bhima and locked by Draupadi, and when when Yudhishthira Maharaj tried to stop Draupadi, Krishna said, "Let her smile."
Oh,
So if you want to blame somebody, then you have to blame Krishna for instigating Draupadi. He could have said, "Hey, don't laugh," but he said, "Let her laugh, don't stop her." That is what the
okay, they
Bhagavatam
have
says.
before only poisoned Bhima and
Mahabharat,
last time.
Mahabharat doesn't say that, but Bhagavatam says that. Hello? Yeah,
Thank you, Prabhuji.
yeah.
Abhishek ji, can you please ask your question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, can you repeat it?
Can't
Yes,
hear you.
Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji, my question is that at present scenario, parents of God are more focused on
Can't hear you,
helping.
please. Yeah, I can't hear you. Hello?
Prabhuji, am I audible now?
Yes, you try.
Parents of God are more
No, no, you are
focused.
breaking. You are breaking.
Abhishek ji, you can try a little later. Harsh, can you please ask your question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, thank you very much for a nice class. Prabhuji, if I heard you nicely, that you said that the Gandharva Viva is among the topmost Viva among the eight Vivas.
Yes.
If if yes, then why, Prabhuji? Because I never understood because most of the marriages which were earlier were Swayamvars or arranged marriages. Even Rama, when was married, he said, "I will not marry without the consent of my father." So why was
No,
Gandharva married?
that is not wrong on his part because he chose to marry with the consent of his parents. So that does not defy if somebody marries without the consent of parents if they are qualified. The story of Shakuntala and Bharat, they married without the parents around being there. They married having the direction as the Sakshi. And when the father got to know, he said, even though even though you have not told, आपने आपने पिता की अवज्ञा की है परंतु अधर्म नहीं किया है. This is the word spoken by the father of Shakuntala. So therefore, one story does not contradict other story. Ram chose to be always submissive to his superiors. We have to understand that, right? So why Gandharva is the highest? Because the love marriage which is spoken in the scripture, I'm not talking about the unscientific love marriage which most people go through, no, but the scientific love marriage which Shastra is speaking is naturally highest because it is a connection between one person's mind, intelligence, ego and their Atma to other personality, right? And therefore when Shakuntala and Dushyanta, we will take this story because it's a long description, maybe 3 sessions we require. So Shakuntala when got attracted to Dushyant, and Dushyant when he got attracted to Shakunt, he didn't know her but he could understand who she is and he could see that she is attracted to him. He said, "Tell your Paramatma whether you are not attracted to me." So there is a deeper science, so we have to study carefully to understand. Don't don't judge the Gandharva Vivaha based upon the experience of present love marriages. Go back to the original Gandharva Vivaha only. So therefore Ram is not against Gandharva Vivaha, but he chose to marry based upon the needs of his parents. That he chose. But that does not defy the story of Dushyanta and Shakula. That doesn't defy the story of Arjuna and Subhadra. We are doing Arjun Subhadra story. That doesn't defy the story of many other such personalities. Satyavan Savitri. It's a Gandharva Vivaha. It's a marriage, love marriage, where parents couldn't find anybody. They said, okay, you find yourself. Nala Damayanti, Damayanti was stopped by the Devatas from marrying Nala, right? So there are many stories which are absolutely Gandharva Vivaha, unlike Ram's marriage, because Ram chose like that.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Ramji, can you please ask your question? Raviji, can you please ask your question?
Thank you, Prabhu. Prabhu, Dandavat Pranama, and thank you very much for the wonderful session. Just a small request, if you can elaborate more on why did Gandhari make that statement that she would be the reason for killing of my all sons? Thank you so much.
Because Gandhari, in the heart of her heart, She knew the background of her own sons. It was predicted when they were born. And you need a catalyst, and the catalyst she knew. It's not necessarily all explanation have to be given, but she felt, because whom were the Kauravas are against? The Pandavas. And when somebody becomes against who are connected to Pandavas to such an extent, she realized she is a catalyst. एक गट फीलिंग से आ गया, उसमें कोई एक्सप्लेनेशन नहीं दिया है. There is no
Okay, thanks, Prabhu.
explanation given. Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah,
Yeah, am I audible? Can I speak?
yeah.
Yeah. Prabhuji, recently I was reading a book on Mahabharata, and that author was saying that as per the Bhandarkar Research Institute, and even in note in the Gita Press edition, they are saying that Karna tried, but it failed the challenge. Only the Ganguly's translation speaks about, he tried to string the bow, but before he could shoot the target, Draupadi announced that she wouldn't marry the Karna. In fact, she also says that as per the Bhandarkar Institute, she came across total 1,259 manuscripts, and out of those, only 6 manuscripts had spoken about Draupadi rejecting Karna. In fact, she's saying almost all the manuscripts are saying that she does not say she did not only 6 were rejected, where Draupadi is rejecting Karna out of 1,259 manuscripts. So she is saying that it's a later interpolation. So
What is
as per
that?
her, actually it was never, it was nothing like that. She rejecting. Yeah,
No, that is not the truth. The
yeah.
truth is, if in the Mahabharata itself, even the Gita Press Gorakhpur, when Narad Muni is narrating the story of marriage, he gives little different explanation and the very story which is happening. So therefore, again, it is not, again, it's not democratical. How many times this version has spoken, how many times that version has spoken. We have to go by the tradition, the folk tradition and the classical tradition, the scriptural tradition. All the acharyas from every sampradaya and all the folklores from every folk tradition, generally are very coherent in the story. For me, it is very clear, that what is it? It's, again, don't get into the story, get into the psychology of Karna, because he proves repeatedly getting disturbed. So Draupadi whether told him or did not tell him does not matter, and telling by Draupadi to Karna doesn't make her criminal. We don't have to say अरे उसने बोला ही नहीं था. नहीं, बोलने पर भी प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. Just like that laughing at Duryodhan and Krishna supporting that is there in the Bhagavatam. So that does not make her criminal. That means she has the art of, if some young guy makes a mistake and you laugh at him, and he should be very sportive. And Duryodhan did not have the act of sport. Therefore, Lord Ramachandra told Lakshmana, no need to make Hasyaras with his Shurpanaka, because she doesn't understand the nuances of Hasyaras. Be serious with her. Right? It is but natural. Even Lord Ram was joking with Shurpanaka. Why you want second best? Why you want? I'm already married. Go to Lakshman. He's actually alone. What does it mean? Ram is lying. He said, yeah, Lakshman is alone. What did Shurpanaka understood? Oh, Shurpanaka understood that Lakshman is not married. Then Lakshman said, why you want second one? He's the best. He's the number one. Why you want the second? He is the first. When then Shurpanaka saw Ram has having Sita, I have to destroy her. Then Ram said, she is not fit for Hasyaras. So from the rasa perspective, the Pandavas knew how to experience all the rasas perfectly. If Dhritarashtra had fallen like that, they would not ridicule. Duryodhan is young and is acting stupidly, तो हंसोगे ना. एक 22 साल का आपका मित्र गिर जाता है खेलते खेलते, if it is not hurt him, you laugh at him. अगर वही जो हंसने वाला, if you find that he has got a, if you're injury, you don't stop laughing, you don't keep laughing, you will go and give care for him. Nobody says that the Pandavas provided new set of clothes to Duryodhan when he fell in the water. You only focus on that. So therefore we don't have to make our heroes into such a person that they never made a mistake. No, it's okay. Draupadi has all the right to experience and say that. So I would prefer the Gita Press version. So Draupadi is speaking it and standing by her statement. You
Thanks
understand?
a lot, Prabhu.
And
Fantastic.
there is lot of the Vandarkar Institute also have done great work, but at some point of time the original Suktankar, when he was compiling, they're pulling out so many stories trying to bring out the original Mahabharata. No? Therefore it is better to focus on the psychology of the tradition and the tradition itself.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna,
very much, Prabhuji. Abhishek ji, would you like to please try?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Prabhuji, my question is that at present scenario, parents of girls are more focused on earning part while choosing a husband for his daughter. Is it only to be seen, or what other things also to be seen in a boy by daughter's father in this age of Kali, and how much earning a boy should have to allure them without sacrificing the spiritual part?
No, that's again. Therefore, the marriages now are based upon, like there is a consumer market, there is a capital market, there is a relationship market. So depending upon what people want, the majority may want something, but majority doesn't prove the reality, na? Right? If the boy and girl and their family understand the principle of married life, so they will invest. If you are bargaining for limbu, if you are bargaining for tomato, you are bargaining for aloo, you are bargaining for, buying underwear also, getting into all the qualities. But when it comes nowadays, people don't know. People talk about just brand, and people can put anything as the brand. Right? I'll not get into a story which I heard just now, but the point is, but when it comes to marriage, they stand by simple, stupid logic. Is she from my son, my daughter need to go to America or Europe to settle? Only that boy you want to marry, or my girl has to be settling down in this place, then only will get married. Or the boy is thinking, oh, I want the girl to be beautiful. So you'll get the beautiful girl, but not necessarily having a wife quality. It doesn't mean that a beautiful girl cannot be wife, but the point is one has to see different compatible chart. So if they don't see, the marriage will last long as long that need is fulfilled, but other needs will come in the forefront. Therefore, the psychology of getting married doesn't change in any yuga, whether it is Satya, Treta, Dwapar, the laws remain the same. But we are becoming lawless, and because we are becoming lawless, then we have to face the consequences of not understanding that law. So therefore, there should be education in that regard. Just like you get education to get money, there should be an education to get the science of relationship. If you don't get, it is like buying a lottery ticket. Most of the time, you end up not winning the ticket, right? So therefore, it's a very clear principle in regards to, you invest in a relationship, you get the return. You are reactive in relationship, you get reaction from the relationship. What you seek, that shall you find. Simple and clear, doesn't change the science based upon yugas. There is a greater adjustment, that is a good part of Kali Yuga. The forgetfulness is much greater. So therefore, let us not get into the yuga cycle to say, oh, this is what happened. Then you then you then you experience the reaction the way you believe. Chinese माल मिलेगा फिर, right? Or and then people may say, no, it doesn't matter, nowadays the marriages don't last long, so even if the divorce happens, doesn't work like that. Even when they get divorced, the impact of the divorce continues to remain even after they're settled with another man or a woman, because they are not a stone, they're a human being, they have experiences, they're sensitive people. Even in the most liberal countries, people experience, and the psychologists say, the divorced person has two people in his life, the previous one and the present one, and it takes lot of energy to reconcile the two. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. We have Anita ji who has a question. Anita ji, can you please unmute and ask your question?
Haribol, can you hear me?
Not very clearly.
Hare Krishna?
Yeah, better.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, Draupadi was a very powerful personality, but
Yeah.
still she instigated and depended on her husbands to protect her. In a very respectful way, I'm just asking what is the psychology behind this, and also how it can be applied to the present, because nowadays women are just expected to do everything on their own, and we really don't know the line between being self sufficient, being independent, and being dependent anymore. So, can you just throw
It
some
is
light on
not
this?
only about women, even men in relationship more. So when a woman begins her married life, she apparently is more dependent. When the marriage is about to be concluded because of the death or old age, man becomes more dependent. If you see the phenomena, therefore again how our sages were so great. Why girls has to be younger than the boy? Because if the girl stays longer, a man dies, a woman can handle widowhood much greater than the man handling without a wife. People go depression, men. So therefore interdependence was the principle of life for everybody. When people say women has to do everything, that is you are trying to make them Hanuman when they are not. Every kapi in Lord Ram's army had something to contribute, but not like Hanumanji who could contribute great. Therefore, the superhumanness, it is non-existent. It is an interdependent relationship. So therefore, there are certain strength in women and there are certain strength in man. There are certain limitation in women and there are certain limitation in man. The limitation of a man become the strength of a woman, vice versa. So therefore, there is no such thing as they have to. And another principle, that it is not that women did not work in the traditional Indic society. There is some people say women never worked, money is the problem because they are earning money, therefore they want to be free and independent. No, that is not the reason where they want to be independent. It is ignorance. It is the wrong narratives which makes them like that. It is not because they earn money, because they were resourceful people. Money was always in the hands of women only in the traditional society. All the wealth were managed by women. That did not spoil them. If you study Chanakya's Arthashastra written 2500 years ago, it talks about what kind of profession women should do and what kind of salary they should be provided, what kind of remuneration they should be provided. Right? So therefore it is not completely true based upon isolated narratives, right? Because ultimately women or man or a woman, who are they? A gender reality is their conditional reality, but they have their own psychological reality, certain disposition. So when you facilitate their disposition where they experience contentment, satisfaction and pleasure of growth, and along with that, when you realize as this gender, as a woman and as a man, they have these needs and these are the needs of man, and each one of them, you know in regards to helping each other, one has to provide these needs and other will provide these needs. It's a life of refined bargain, not like the capitalist bargain, but a refined bargain. ये तुम करोगे तो ये आपको मिलेगा, these things will you'll receive. But now the bargain is becoming very deceptive. I will give less as possible. Whether the laws are made in such a way, they are supposed to facilitate growth of women, but the laws are made in such a way the unscrupulous people use the law for wrong reason to score a point. It is all about the right rather than responsibility. The Sanatan Dharma, the traditional system, does talk about rights. It provides you to experience your right, but the rights are there to become responsible. As much more privileges you get, that much more responsible you become. Again, this law also doesn't change just because there is a modernity. And therefore we see in the modern world, the psychological problem are much greater. Your grandmother and our grandmothers never experienced this problem. There was no such thing as going to a psychologist. The Ayurveda talks about Mansik Shastra, but there was no separate department. It was handled by the doctor only, Ayurveda. Now it is a huge investment in the whole science of mental related problems. Why? Not because of Kali Yuga, because of wrong mathematics practiced by people. Therefore, wrong understanding of people, which causes trouble to them.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you mentioned that in the case of Draupadi, it was predestined that she would marry Arjuna. So, is it that your life partner is pre-decided, is predestined, and we need to find one?
We have to understand this aspect more clearly. It was spoken by Vyasadev. You don't have Vyasadev telling you that you are going to marry this person. And even Vyasadev, very rarely he gave a predictable future what would happen. But even that was reconfirmed again and again. Few times Vyasadev does that. Understand? So therefore, when it is talk about getting married, you don't begin by saying, it is predestined, somebody will come to my life. No. When you are performing an action of getting married, there is lot of investment, understanding from a psychological perspective, from the astrological perspective, from the family community perspective, from the jati perspective, from the place where they live. All this, why would they suggest all this? After doing all this properly, when you get married, then you call, this was my destiny that I was supposed to marry this person. Not before this. If you marry in ignorance, yeah, that is the consequences of ignorance, not because of your destiny. That way you can call it as a destiny. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives greater emphasis on ignorance in regards to everything rather than karma. Karma is a general term, but when you go deeper, then you realize, oh, I made so many mistakes here because of lack of knowledge, lack of understanding, and therefore I am suffering. So that is a destiny caused by just recent limitations. But if you want to call it as a real destiny, then you also follow what the scripture and common sense is talking about. If somebody bumps into a railway station, you don't call it as a destiny, that is called as a stupidity. That is not how you get married. And then something goes wrong or something goes good. Oh, God was so merciful. अरे लॉटरी टिकट लग गया आपको, गॉड का कोई रोल ही नहीं इधर. Some other the permutation and combination work properly, but that happens very rarely. The permutation combination works always wrong, unfortunately, most of the time, because you have done it wrongly only. So can you stop here? Does it make sense?
Yes,
You
yes,
want to
Prabhuji.
make an announcement?
Yes, thank you very much, Prabhuji. That was very insightful and very practical. Uh, Prabhuji has started a course on the laws of living, which is over 5 weekends. We just did 2 classes last week. You can still enroll for the course. It's going to be on Saturday and Sundays between 7 and 8 p.m. A very insightful and life altering course. If you're interested, you could log on to ISKCON Chopati's website and look at the courses being offered and enroll from there. Alternatively, you can reach us on 9769436934, and you can register over WhatsApp. Uh, we again connect on Clubhouse next Tuesday as we continue our discussion on the science of Swayamvar, where we discuss the marriage of Arjuna with Subhadra Mai. Thank you very much for joining in. Hare Krishna.